You're listening to Radio Kidnappers, the voice of Hawke's Bay. This is a program called The Wonderful World of Wardini Books, and it's our pleasure, as always, to have in the studio, as we say every week, the wonderful Lou. How you going, Lou?
Very well. Wonderful. Thank you, Ken.
You are very wonderful.
Cheers.
Busy as a flat out like a lizard drinking.
Absolutely. It's good. It's a good life.
Too right. And three more great books, and the first one is called The Offing, and I thought it was about killing someone, but not.
No, we're not offing anybody today. This is by Benjamin Myers, and the offing in this instance is rather poetic and beautiful. So the offing is the bit at which the horizon meets the sea.
All right.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, eh?
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, apparently so. So this is set just post Second World War in England, and you've got a Geordie boy from the collieries in Newcastle, and he's just left school and he's going down pit, and he doesn't want to go down pit. Yeah. I'm still in Yorkshire, Nottinghamshire. So he decides that he's going to do sort of the equivalent of what we would call a gap year. He's just going to walk, and he knows that his destiny is down the pit, but he's got a lyrical heart and he wants to get out into nature and see a bit of the country. So he sets off on foot and he gets harvesting jobs and things as he goes down through England, and he gets as far as Yorkshire. He's kind of around that Whitby, Pickering area, I believe. And then he meets a lady called Dulcie, an older lady, who he kind of clicks with, he bonds with her, and her dog, Butler, who she calls Butters, who's quite a menacing German Shepherd until you get to know him well enough. And so he bonds with this lady and he camps in her garden and does odd jobs around the place for her. And every time he tries to leave, there's always an excuse for him to go back. And he's doing up the sort of summer house / shed thing in her garden for her, even though she hasn't asked him to. He's just volunteered to do it, and he finds papers and things in there, and so he starts to ask her about them, and then he begins to uncover the sadness that he's seen in her and her aversion to the sea. She's kind of grown her garden so that she can't see the sea, even though it would be an amazing view. So there's the beautiful images of nature as Robert, his name is, walks through the countryside. And then there's this mystery about what's gone off in Dulcie's life. And it's really rather gorgeous. There are images of things that Robert does, like he's obviously got no access to a bed and a shower for most of his travels. So he goes out in the dewy morning and strips off and rolls around in the grass because the wet grass and all the stones in it clean his skin. And you're just like, that sounds great. I wonder if it would be.
You should try it sometime and let us know if that really works.
But just a beautiful novel. Yeah, absolutely. Beautifully written.
Good ending?
It's great, the whole thing.
Does it all come together and everyone goes off into the sunset like the Lone Ranger and say yes?
Kinda.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's beautiful.
Is it like a chick flick?
No, blokes could read it too. It's quite. It's one of those that it's not literary in the sense that it's hard to read, but he writes like a poet. So everything is described not in great deep depth, but the words are chosen carefully, and he's really thought about the flow of his language, so it's a lovely one.
Nice one. And here's a book title that I can relate to, Before the Coffee Gets Cold.
Don't let your coffee get cold.
Oh, indeed.
Not in this case anyway, because this is a Japanese bestseller by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, and it is quite a special little book. It's so unusual. It's about a cafe in Tokyo, and it's a basement cafe, so even if it's 40 degrees out in Tokyo, it's always cool down in the cafe. No one can really figure out why, because there's not really any air conditioning or anything. And there are very few tables, and it's got the reputation that if you go there, you can travel in time.
Wow, I'm going there.
So why isn't it full of people all the time? Well, the rules are intense, Ken. That's the thing. So you have to sit at this one particular chair that is usually occupied by a lady in white reading a novel. And you can only sit there when she decides to go to the loo. She does that one time a day.
Yes.
So you have to wait patiently. And then you can only go back in time to that cafe to meet somebody that has also been at that cafe. So you can't just go anywhere in time. And whatever happens, your present won't change. So some people immediately go, well, what's the point?
Yes,
but
what is the point?
There are all sorts of things that you can do. So it's about people redressing wrongs and saying the things that they wish they'd said and things like that. And there are 4 stories. So you've got the the lovers at the beginning, and then you've got husband and wife, which is a particularly poignant, lovely story, and then you've got the sisters, and then there's a mother and child story to finish.
Nice.
And it's about the staff there as well, and it is quite beautiful and mystical, but very simple. And it was apparently a play by Toshikazu Kawaguchi that is then turned into a novel. And I didn't realise that until I'd finished reading it, but then you go, oh yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. It should be made into a movie. It sounds like it will be a great movie.
It's just delightful.
Did you give it a 10?
Yeah, I do give it a 10. I thought it was great.
You don't give many 10, so that's it's a good recommendation.
Yeah.
And the last one we're going to have a look at is called Mop Head. We can all relate to that too.
It's incredible. So this is an 11 out of 10. I know you're not supposed to do that. It's by our poet laureate that just was before they swapped over. So Selina Tusitala Marsh.
Great cover.
She's illustrated it as well.
Wow.
So she is the nation's most beautiful, amazing poet. And she has written this, it's a memoir really, of her growing up. And she sets the scene really well. So it's for children, but it's for everybody really. How your difference makes a difference. When I was 10, I was teased for having big hair. Not just thick curly hair, but wild Afakasi hair. Afakasi equals being Samoan plus something else. So this is her heritage. Thick wavy hair from my Samoan Tuvaluan mum, and thin curly hair from my New Zealand, Scottish, English, French dad. So she's got all this heritage in there, and look at that.
Look at that.
And she's just got the most mad, amazing, wild, beautiful hair. But kids being kids, they call her all sorts of nasty things. So, and she couldn't get it under control. She couldn't wear the cutesy bows that other kids wore at school because it snapped them. And they called her Mop Head.
Yes.
And then when she thought about what that meant, because she was tall and skinny as well.
Yes.
You know, so she thought about...
Look at that drawing.
Yeah, isn't it gorgeous? I was tall, skinny and brown, like the mop in our garage. It smelled like old socks. Yeah. So it's not a compliment to be called that at all. And then it made her feel bad. And then, of course, she cut it, and the kids called her Fuzzy Wuzzy and Gollywog. And then she wore it in plaits like Pippi Longstocking, and they called her Pippi Blackstocking, and all the cruel things that kids do. So anyway, she decided at home that she would be, look at all these things, she would be a champion rider, a chart-topping singer, and look at that, record-breaking explorer. Come on, Ed, off she goes up the mountain. Yes. But at school it was a different story. She's got to try and keep it under control. And then Sam Hunt visits school. And he's tall and thin with mad hair. And she looks at him because she's a poet too, always has been in her heart. And so she knows that she can do it too.
Exactly.
And it's just brilliant. Just absolutely fantastic. We were the same kind of different. Tall, thin, wild hair, sings words, but she doesn't yet have a red car or a dog called Minstrel, so she's going to have to work on those.
Sort on that one.
So it's her story, and she goes on to be head girl at high school, you know, and eventually she's a professor at Auckland University, and she is poet laureate, and she runs marathons as well. Honestly, this chick is everything.
She is.
And so I just think it's the most amazing, amazing thing, and this is where she... You know, when it's a Hawke's Bay connection too, because the poet laureates are, I don't know what the word is now, but they have their ceremony out at the marae that's complete. You know, the one near Black Bridge. Yep. Is that Waipatu? Can't remember the name of it. I feel terrible. So there she is. You know, so it's got a real Hawke's Bay connection there, and
looks like a great book.
Just amazing.
I mean, you're obviously too young to remember, but I remember back in the late 60s or 70s, the afro, and I just thought, wow, it just looked fantastic.
Absolutely.
And
how jealous.
Yeah, and those people who dared to be different, in the main, you looked up to them and thought, good on you.
Yeah, well, that's you and I. But so I think it is fear and jealousy sometimes that makes people so cruel, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah.
Anyway, you've got some news. You're going to run the New York Marathon.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
That's okay, no worries. You are awesome, I told you.
The whole family is going to be an amazing experience.
Just a reminder before we get out of here, where can we get these fabulous books?
Wardini Books. So we're 16 Tomato Road in Havelock North and 44 Hastings Street in Napier.
As always, our pleasure. Look after yourself. Talk to the same time, same place next time.
Cool, thanks again.